Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of T-Dog RC, and in this episode we are talking about the Radiomaster Zorro. Got my hands on one. It's taken a little while because they've been out of stock, but finally got one from Hobby RC. And this isn't going to be a review as such because there's lots of reviews out there already. All the big YouTubers get theirs sent to them by Radiomaster like a long time before we can get hold of them in the shops, but this is more just a chat about it from sort of a real world perspective and how I'm actually going to use it and why I've decided to buy one, because as you may know already from my channel, I've already got a Radiomaster TX16S, so why have I bought one of these? So without further ado, let's get stuck in. Right, well, before we get started, just one thing to mention is if you hear some strange noises, it's because I'm sat out here in the workshop and it is literally blowing a gale, as they say outside. It's Storm Dudley, 40-mile-an-hour winds, and it's actually just blown a gust that big that it's just blown a load of dust through the roof cavity and into the workshop. So that's what it is in the background. So, Radiomaster Zorro. This clearly isn't a Radiomaster Zorro, but the question is, why have I bought one? Because you all know I'm a big fan of my Radiomaster TX16S, and I've also just upgraded the gimbals to the AG01 gimbals. I'll stick a link to the video for that one up at the top. So yeah, why, if I love this so much, why have I bought a Radiomaster Zorro, and why might you want to buy one as well? The simple answer to that for me really is that this is what I use for my sort of large RC models, particularly things like nitro models and Bolzer models, where I'm just used to using a nice big traditional radio with lots of functionality available, really nice quality gimbals, something that you know, I can really rely on. So that's what I'm using this for. But I have been using one of these, which is the Jumper t-lite, and this has been okay, but it is pretty cheap. It doesn't feel too bad, but the gimbals feel very plasticky sort of thing, and it doesn't feel like the best quality in the world. And as you can see, I've been using mine with a Crossfire nano module on the back, and I've quite enjoyed using it. I quite like the format, but the functionality of this is very limited. It's only got a couple of switches, very small screen, there's no scroll wheel. It's quite hard to use, and I found it pretty frustrating sometimes using the menu options on OpenTX just with these buttons. But it is a decent little radio, and for the price you can't complain too much. But I was really looking for something in this format but a bit better quality, and of course that's where this came into play. And the reason I like these is I think these are really good for, you know, if you're into quads, then obviously these are a nice format of radio because they're just so small and compact, really easy to fit in your backpack. But I just think these lend themselves, if you've got something like a little flying wing, or like I said, a quad or something like that, it almost seems a bit overkill having a big radio like this, big heavy radio, when you can, you know, you can have something like this. So that's the reason I've got one, and I want to have one of these in this format. And the reason why I've bought the Radiomaster Zorro is because I said the Jumper t-lite is okay, but it's a little bit on the cheap side. But this is going to be a quality piece of kit, hopefully. So I bought the 4-in-1 version. And just quickly, if you don't know, there's several versions of these. They do a CC 2500 protocol one, which is basically all these different options are just the transmitter chip inside them. The CC 2500 lets you do FreeSky, which is the main protocol. So if you only fly FreeSky or Radiomaster or Jumper receivers, then that one's probably going to be okay for you. But it does a couple of other protocols as well, some that I've not heard of, but I know they are sometimes included in some sort of ready-to-fly models. And then the 4-in-1 option, which is what this one is, which I think will probably be the most popular option, and that has basically got the same chip as the Radiomaster TX16S, and that allows you to fly everything basically: Free Sky, Futaba, Fly Sky, Spectrum, pretty much any receiver that you can think of, this will be compatible with it, with the 4-in-1 chip. And then they've also done an ELRS module as well, built into one of these, which is a little bit like Crossfire. So it's a long range system that runs on 2.4 gigs as opposed to 900 megs or whatever it is on Crossfire. And that's for people who want to be able to fly super long distances, you know, well over sort of 3 or 4 miles out of sight, really, which is not something we do in this country anyway because of the laws around that. So it wasn't really something that interested me, but I think there's a lot of people pleased that Radiomaster have actually brought out a radio with ELRS built in, and really that definitely is something that the FPV community are after. So you can tell that they've pitched this radio at the sort of FPV flyers and drone flyers and fixed, you know, like flying wing type FPV stuff. And this is also, when I ordered this, I decided to get some batteries with it, because this takes a rather strange battery size. It's 18350, but Radiomaster have released some batteries, so I ordered mine with the batteries, and then when it came from Hobby RC, I thought, oh, they've forgotten to include the batteries, but on the side there is a sticker here that says it includes them, but it is still sealed, so I'm guessing Radiomaster do actually do some packs with 18350 batteries included, which is what this is. So that's just something to be aware of, because I wasn't aware of that until I actually received this. I just assumed that the 18350s would come in a separate little pack. And they do another option. They do a combi pack, which I think comes with the 4-in-1 chip, but includes a Crossfire module as well. So that's always a good option if you do want to get into some long range stuff, but you don't want the complication of ELRS, because there's a lot of it's a little bit, with it being an open source type thing and it's in its fairly early stages, it's not a straightforward system to use. You do have to do a little bit of sort of messing around, flashing things and all that sort of stuff. I'm sure it'll just keep on getting better and better, but if you want something simple and you do want some sort of long range stuff, then Crossfire is a really good option still. So let's have a look what we've got in the box. Let's get this open. So it's fairly basic packaging. You don't get like a fancy case like you do with the TX16S. You just get one of these plastic cases. All the little thumb enders come off there. So let's take a look. What we've got here, we've just got a USB-C charge cable and a couple of Velcro straps, which I know what those straps are for, so I'll come on to those in a minute. And there's also a screen protector there. Not sure what that is, that just fell out. That comes out of there. So I think that's if you want to add an external aerial of some sort. There's a slot for that. But certainly straight out the box feels like, as I suspected, a fairly quality piece of kit, especially if I compare it to the jumper. It's quite a lot bigger, as you can see. I'd probably say about half as big again maybe as the jumper, but it does feel really nice in the hand. And let's not forget, this is not like a premium radio. This is still I think it's £80 for the 4-in-1 module, so it's still a cheap radio, so you know you're not going to get like an absolute premium quality feel, but it definitely feels like a step up for me for this style of radio. And of course it's got the nice big screen there, which is great, and it's got a scroll wheel, and that's made of metal as well, and that's got a nice feel to it, and all these buttons feel nice quality basically. And that was one of the issues I got with this, was that like some of the text, you know that this text is probably going to rub off after a little while, and the buttons. Oh, that was one thing that was really frustrating actually, was these trim controls were very difficult to use. I found when you were flying the model, you know, you kept having to look down to try and see which trim button you were on, whereas the Zorro has got normal trim controls, which is really good. And then it's got a lot more buttons as well. So it's got 2 3-position switches here, and then 2 2-position switches, which is handy. Because the thing is, if you are using this sort of controller, then you may well be using something like iNav if you've got a fixed wing FPV model, and you've got all sorts of different modes with iNav, you know, and things like return to home and all that sort of stuff. And I found on the jumper there just wasn't enough switches really to program anything, because you need to assign at least one of these switches just to arm it. So that takes one. Then you've got your different modes. Then you've got return to home, and it just doesn't give you many options if you're using that sort of software. Whereas this has got more. So it's got 2 jog wheels as well on the back there, so they're handy. And then it's got these 2 momentary switches here, which again could be quite useful for arming and disarming. And then there's 2 on the back as well, which are in quite a nice position there as well. So yeah, that's all good. The gimbals feel okay. They don't feel, I would say, any better than the jumper really. A little bit plasticky, but absolutely fine for what we need. I think they are Hall sensor ones, I'm pretty sure, so they're not going to wear out anytime soon. But I have also heard, and I'm sure you all have as well if you're watching some more reviews of this, that RadioMaster are talking about bringing some AGO1 style gimbals out for this as well. So that would be pretty nice if they do that. Throttle's pretty loose, so I'll need to be tightening that up. You can do that without taking the back off or anything like that. So you just use these screws here, these holes here, to tighten them up. And I won't go through all that sort of stuff, because as I've said, that's not really what this video is about. It's more just kind of like my first take on the radio and why I've bought one. But there's plenty of videos out there that will show you what all these are for. But that for sure is how you adjust the tension of the springs and that kind of thing. So at least, like I said, you don't need to take the back off or anything like that. It does include the 18350 batteries, which are these are the RadioMaster ones. So they're actually in. I wasn't sure whether they would come in the box, but they've actually put them in the controller already, so that's fine. These have got a nice soft touch feel to them as well. So these grips are really nice. It's also got this neat little aerial built into it. When I can pull it up, well, that's pretty stiff. But you can obviously use that if you want to, but I think the idea is that you can just keep it down like that and that will work fine. So it just keeps it nice and neat. Let's power it up.
Welcome to HTX.
So the speaker sounds relatively good quality there as well. I can tell straight away that's a lot clearer for this sort of size. And you'll notice there it said it was Edge TX, not Open TX. Again, that's something fairly common with the other videos of this that you will have heard people talking about. It's apparently you will barely notice the difference with using this radio and it running Edge TX to Open TX. Most of the controls are almost identical. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, what the differences will be on this radio. I'll have to have a look, but from what I've heard, you'll go quite a long way to actually see any differences, because this isn't touch screen or anything like that. So that's all good. Now, one of the things I'm going to be doing with this, because these 18350 batteries as well are only, I think, 900 milliamps. So I've seen a few reports that say you get about a couple of hours flying out of them, which in reality is probably fine, because usually, I guess, you know, I don't have it switched on for 2 hours at a time because you're switching it on and off. But I will be swapping my this Crossfire Nano transmitter, so that is compatible with this, which is great because it's just got the same bay there, so that just plugs straight in. In fact, we can do that. So that just clips off there, so that just lines up on the pins there, and then push it down and it clicks, and that's that sorted. So that's brilliant that that just goes on the back there. Let's just turn it back on. The only thing I have the only thing I have noticed is that the haptic control, so the little vibration thing, feels a little bit weak, but it's not the end of the world because I'm not too fussed about that. But yeah, doesn't seem to vibrate very strong. But that's gone on there really nice. The Crossfire, and this is a lot of the time how I'm going to be using it. But the Crossfire does take a little bit more power, and I suspect if you're going to be running the Crossfire, these 900 milliamp batteries aren't going to last very long. So what I'm going to do, they have quite nicely included these little brackets at the bottom here, and the idea of that is you use these included straps. And I've also just noticed something else quite cool. The USB's a nice little purple colour. Not seen one of those before. Anyway, so you've got these two straps here, which just go through here like this. So you've got those two there, and then what you can do is you can get a 2S battery pack and basically strap that to the bottom. And I think under here, yes. So under here, I think this is the charge port, the USB-C charge port, but there's also like a 2S balance connector, or I think it's JST connector. So you can, if you've got a 2S battery, you can just take the balance connector and plug it directly into there, and that basically gives you a power boost. And so what I am going to be doing is I've got a couple of these spare 18650 batteries, and these are quite nice ones. These are Samsung 3000 milliamp batteries. So I'm basically just going to get a couple of these, connect them together to form a 2S battery, and then I've bought some balance leads as well. So I don't even need to put like an XT30 or XT60 on here, or if I had an actual 2S battery pack, it might have an XT30 or XT60 connector on it plus the balance lead. I can just make mine purely just with the balance lead and cut it to size, and this I'll use these and make these dedicated for my radio for this Zorro basically. So I'll get these soldered up. Now you do have to be careful doing this. I have done a video on doing these sorts of things, but wouldn't recommend it if you don't know what you're doing, because you can cause these things to explode or set on fire. So if you're not confident about making your own battery pack, then don't do it and just buy one. But I'm okay with doing it, so I'm gonna get these two like this, stick them together, wire them up, and then put some nice heat shrink over those. And then once I've done that, obviously they will just fit quite nicely in there like that, and then I can use the straps to strap them down, and the little JST connector will just go straight in there. So that's hopefully going to be quite a nice little setup, and that will give me 3000 milliamps of power, so that should last a long time then, particularly if I'm using the Crossfire. I'm not sure how it works, whether it combines the 3000 milliamps with the 18350, so you actually get nearly 4000. I'm not quite sure, to be honest, whether it does do that or not, but certainly if it doesn't, just with 3000 milliamps, that will give me loads of power. I suppose that's the only complaint about this, and although Radiomaster are shipping them with their own 18350 batteries, which is great, I don't know why they've chosen that format and why they didn't just go for 18650s. I know it's something to do with trying to make it a certain size, but I'm not sure why they couldn't have fit these in. You would think that they would still fit in there, and it would just make life a lot easier. But there we are, that's their choice. So I think that's enough of me waffling on about this. If you're thinking of buying one of these, or you're in the market for one of these types of radios, then I'd probably highly recommend looking at the Radiomaster. I think it's the most feature-packed game style radio transmitter on the market at the moment, so well worth having a look at. As I say, here in the UK it's about £80 for the 4-in-1, which is pretty good value if you ask me. So what I'm going to be doing next is, as I've said, getting this battery pack made up. I'm going to be switching over all my models from the jumper t-lite. That will be going on eBay, by the way. Yeah, so switching those over to this and getting this all programmed up and bound up with those, and I've got a couple of crossfire models as well to put on this. And I've also just treated myself to a quad. Just thought I would really. As you know, I'm mainly into fixed wing RC, but I just thought I'd have a quad just for flying around in sort of local areas that I can use with my DJI goggles, but I'll certainly get that set up on this. But what I'll probably do next is get this configured on one of my flying wings, take it down the field, and do another very quick video just to give you a bit of feedback on how it is to actually fly a model with the Radiomaster Zorro. So, hope you've enjoyed that. I know it's not been an in-depth review because I said that I wasn't really doing that. It's just more to sort of show you what I'm going to be doing with it myself. But I hope you found it useful. If you've got any questions, then stick them down in the comments box. Or if you've indeed got any comments, then put them in the comments box. And I always try to make sure I reply to your comments. Appreciate everyone who's subscribed to the channel already. If you haven't subscribed and you're into mainly fixed wing RC and RC tech like this, then you're going to want to subscribe to my channel. I've got all sorts of stuff coming up on the channel, things that I've got planned. Most of the people who watch the channel aren't subscribers, and it really helps me out if you do subscribe, because you know that's one of the reasons why I'm doing YouTube, is to try and build up my subscriber base and just have a bit of fun and help people out. So if you want to give me a thumbs up if you like the video, that would be great as well. And as always, I appreciate everyone watching, particularly if you've watched to the end, and I'll see you soon for the next one.